What if I told you that you are literally throwing money in the trash every time you mow your lawn? Or even worse, that you are paying a high price for bags of manure at the garden center, when the most powerful and nutritious food for your plants is right there under your feet and is completely free. Today we are going to talk about a true gardening miracle, but pay close attention. I am not talking about that rotten, stinky grass water that many people show on the internet, and I am not talking about composting that takes forever to be ready. In this video, you will learn how to make the best good rot, a liquid lawn fertilizer in just 7 days, with the smell of wet earth and with a nutritional power 100 times better than traditional manure. Stay with me until the end, because the secret lies in a surprise ingredient you have in your kitchen. So tell me in the comments, have you ever ruined the smell of your garden trying to make homemade fertilizer? To understand why this recipe works so well, we need to go back a bit in time and observe how nature feeds itself. In the forests, there is no one putting chemical fertilizer pellets on the trees. Leaves and grasses fall, decompose quickly with the help of oxygen and soil life, and return nutrients to the earth. The big problem is that when we try to do this at home, we usually make two classic mistakes. The first is the famous grass tea, the one where water is poured over the grass, the bucket is covered, and it is left to rot. This creates an environment without oxygen dominated by bacteria that produce hydrogen sulfide gases. The result is that unbearable sewer smell that, besides annoying the neighbors, can become toxic to sensitive roots. The second path is the traditional compost bin, which is wonderful but takes about 6 months to turn grass into soil. What we are going to do here is use the science of aerobic microorganism multiplication. We are going to create an oxygen-boosted grass tea that extracts all the nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus from the fresh plant in record time, without any bad smell. Let's start by debunking a big myth about the use of manure. Many people blindly believe that cow or horse manure is the magical and irreplaceable solution for any garden. But the truth that few tell is that store-bought manure today often brings hidden problems. First, it can be loaded with weed seeds that survive the animal's digestive system. You fertilize the garden, and suddenly weeds sprout everywhere. Additionally, if the livestock was treated with certain medications or herbicides in the pasture, these chemical residues can end up directly in your organic garden, harming the growth of sensitive plants like tomatoes and peppers. On the contrary, the grass that grows in your own garden is a safe and clean source of nutrients, and you have total control over what was applied to it. It is a pure resource that your plants will absorb much more safely and easily. And why grass? A blade of grass is a true powerhouse of nitrogen. Nitrogen is the macronutrient most demanded by plants during their growth phase. It is responsible for giving that dark and vibrant green color to the leaves and making plants leap in their development. Imagine cut grass as a concentrated vitamin supplement. When you cut the grass, it is full of sap, vitamins, minerals, and live enzymes. If you simply throw it in the trash, you are wasting a treasure. But pay attention. Here is a fundamental rule. We need to use fresh, newly cut grass. Dry grass, the kind that has already turned brown and straw-like, has lost most of its nitrogen and has turned only into carbon. For our 7-day super fertilizer, we want green grass full of life and cellular water, ready to release its power. Now let's talk about the first practical step, collecting the grass. Ideally, collect the grass right after cutting it. It doesn't matter if it was cut with a lawn mower, scissors, or a brush cutter. The important thing is that the pieces are shredded. The smaller the pieces of grass, the greater the contact area with the water, and the faster the nutrient extraction will be. It's like making tea. Chopped leaves release flavor much faster than whole leaves, But watch out for a crucial detail. If you have applied any type of herbicide or selective weed killer to your lawn in the last 3 weeks, do not use this grass under any circumstances. These chemicals do not disappear in the water and will end up killing your garden plants when you water them. Use only grass that has grown naturally and without poisons. The next essential element of our recipe is the container. You will need a large bucket or a plastic drum, depending on the size of your garden. The golden rule for the proportion is simple and does not require a scale. You are going to fill half the volume of your bucket with the freshly cut grass. It is not necessary to press or compact the grass at the bottom. Simply throw it in loose until it reaches the middle of the bucket. This amount is perfect because it ensures an ideal ratio between the green material and the water we will add later. If you put too much grass, the mixture will become too dense, making it difficult for oxygen to circulate, which is the big secret to avoiding bad smells. A 5-gallon, 20L bucket is an excellent size to start making your first tests at home. With the grass in the bucket, it's time to add the water. But stop right there. Don't go running to open the hose and fill the bucket directly from the tap. That is a fatal mistake that destroys the fertilizer on the first day. The tap water that reaches our homes is treated with chlorine, and chlorine has only one function: to kill bacteria. The problem is that our liquid fertilizer depends entirely on live beneficial bacteria to work. If you add chlorinated water, you will sterilize the mixture and it will not ferment correctly. The solution is very simple. If you don't have stored rainwater, fill buckets with tap water and leave them outdoors uncovered for at least 24 hours. Chlorine is a volatile gas and will evaporate completely from the water during this period, leaving the water clean and safe for our microorganisms to work. You will take this chlorine-free water and finish filling the bucket that already has the grass, leaving about a hand span of space from the rim. Do not fill it to the top, as the mixture will bubble and foam over the next few days, and we don't want your precious fertilizer spilling on the ground. But here comes the big difference between our method and that traditional stinky leachate. We are not going to cover the bucket. Exactly what you heard. Forget about airtight lids. We need the oxygen from the air to be in contact with the water at all times. If you close the bucket, bacteria that do not need oxygen will take over the environment. They are the big villains of bad smells, producing that unmistakable rotten egg smell. Leave the bucket open, or at most, cover it with a fine cloth or mosquito net, just to prevent dengue mosquitoes from laying eggs inside. We have reached the secret ingredient. Remember I said we had an ace up our sleeve? To speed up the process and ensure the fertilizer is ready in just 7 days, we are going to add an energy catalyst. You will add 2 heaping tablespoons of sugar to the water for every 2.5 gallons, 10L, of water. It can be granulated sugar, brown sugar, or even cane molasses. But why sugar in the fertilizer? It's not to sweeten the soil. Sugar acts as a fast-absorbing energy drink for beneficial bacteria. As soon as you add the sugar, the aerobic bacteria naturally present in the grass and in the air begin to multiply explosively. They use this energy to break down the grass fibers quickly, releasing nutrients into the water at an accelerated rate. It is this simple handful of sugar that turns a slow process into a 7-day miracle. There is one more optional but incredibly powerful accelerator you can add at this point. It is what we call a natural inoculant. Go to an old tree in your garden or a clean park. Push aside the fallen dry leaves on the ground and take a good handful of that dark, sweet-smelling soil right on the surface, mixed with decomposing leaves. This is leaf litter. Throw this handful of forest soil into your bucket with grass and water. This soil is a true nursery of wonderful microorganisms, beneficial fungi like trichoderma, and bacteria specialized in the decomposition. By throwing this soil into the bucket, You are introducing an army of elite workers into your fertilizer. They will join the sugar and the grass, creating a relentless task force that will dissolve the cell walls of the grass and extract every last drop of vitamins. Now, pay close attention, because this is the step that will determine if your fertilizer will smell like a damp forest or rotten trash. It is the manual labor of the recipe: mechanical aeration. Every day, at least twice a day, in the morning and at the end of the afternoon, you must take a long stick or a tube and stir the liquid in the bucket vigorously. But it's not just a light swirl, no. You have to shake it, create a whirlpool, make the water hit the edges. The goal here is to force fresh oxygen into the water. Think of it as if you were beating cake batter or stirring a soup on the fire. Every time you stir hard, air bubbles enter the mixture, feeding the aerobic bacteria, the ones that do good and don't smell bad. If you forget to stir for 2 days, the oxygen in the water will run out. The bad bacteria will take over, and the bad smell will appear. Let's talk about the ideal place to leave your bucket during these 7 days of magic. The water temperature directly influences the speed of the process. If it's too cold, the bacteria will work slowly. If it's too hot, they could die. The perfect place is a shaded but warm spot, under a tree, on a covered porch, or in a corner by the wall where the strong midday sun doesn't hit. Never leave the bucket cooking under the direct sun at 104 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 by 3 degrees, as the water will get too hot, cooking the grass and killing the beneficial microorganisms we are trying to grow. Warm shade and a fresh breeze are your fertilizer bucket's best friends. Treat this bucket as if it were a temporary pet. It needs shade, fresh air, and your daily visit to give it that essential stir. In the first 3 days of preparation, you will begin to notice very interesting visual and olfactory changes in the bucket. The water, which was previously transparent, will begin to take on a dark green, almost cloudy tone. This is already the grass juice being extracted. When you go to stir the mixture in the morning, you will notice that a layer of white or slightly greenish foam begins to form on the surface. Do not be alarmed. This is a wonderful sign. Many people think that foam means it has gone bad, but it is exactly the opposite. This foam indicates that the bacteria are active, breathing, eating the sugar, and working at full speed. It is living proof that aerobic fermentation is happening perfectly. The smell at this point will still be of cut grass, perhaps a bit stronger, as if you were in the middle of a fresh pasture in the morning. From the 4th to the 6th day, the magic really deepens. The bright green color of the water begins to darken, leaning towards a tone of black tea or soft coffee. The grass that floated at the beginning begins to lose its structure and slowly sinks to the bottom of the bucket. At this stage, most of the minerals, such as potassium and magnesium, along with all that wonderful nitrogen, have already migrated from the leaf to the water. It's time to do the smell test, which is your private laboratory. Bring your nose to the bucket. It should have a characteristic smell of wet earth after a storm, or a sweet smell of light fermentation, which slightly reminds one of the smell of baker's yeast or fresh silage. If it smells like trash or a sewer, it means there was a lack of oxygen, and you need to stir with more vigor and frequency. Finally, we reach the 7th day. Our miracle fertilizer, 100 times superior to manure, and made at zero cost, is ready for harvest. The liquid is now dark, rich, and loaded with microscopic life and bioavailable nutrients. But you are not going to simply pour all of this over your plants at once. The first step is to strain the material. You can use an old strainer, a pasta colander, or even an old cotton shirt to separate the precious liquid from the grass remains left at the bottom. Pour it into another clean bucket or large bottles. And a golden tip: do not throw the leftover grass in the trash. This pulp still has wonderful organic matter. Place these remains on the soil of your pots or around the base of fruit trees. They will serve as a fantastic mulch, retaining soil moisture and continuing to nourish the earth slowly. Now that you have the pure liquid in your hands, we need to talk about dilution. This liquid lawn fertilizer is an extremely strong concentrate. If you apply this pure liquid directly to the roots of your plants, especially young seedlings, you run a high risk of burning the roots due to excess nitrogen. It's like trying to drink a whole glass of pure syrup without mixing it with water. The universal rule for the safe use of this fertilizer is a 1-to-10 dilution. That is, for every 1 liter of your concentrated fertilizer, you will mix 10 liters of clean water, always remembering to use chlorine-free water. When making this mixture, the final liquid will have the color of a very light tea. This is the perfect concentration, gentle enough not to damage the plant, but rich enough to promote an explosion of new leaves and strong roots. How do you apply this liquid treasure to your orchard or garden? The most traditional and efficient way is direct watering into the soil. With a normal watering can, apply the diluted mixture around the base of the plants, soaking the soil well so that the liquid reaches the root zone. The soil acts like a sponge, absorbing the liquid nutrients almost immediately. Unlike granulated fertilizer, which takes days or weeks to dissolve and penetrate the soil, our liquid fertilizer starts working in a matter of hours. The plant drinks the nutrients instantly, and the beneficial microorganisms that came in the liquid begin to colonize the soil, improving the structure of the earth and protecting the roots against disease-causing fungi. It is a double injection of health for your garden. In addition to watering the soil, there is a second application technique that is the secret of great organic producers: foliar feeding. Did you know that plants also drink through their leaves? They have small openings called stomata that open to breathe and absorb moisture. You can put your diluted fertilizer in a spray bottle and apply a fine mist directly onto the leaves of the plants. But pay attention to the clock. Foliar feeding should only be done in the early hours of the morning before the sun gets hot, or at the end of the afternoon when the sun is already setting. If you spray the leaves under the strong midday sun, the water droplets will act like magnifying glasses, concentrating the sun's rays and causing severe burns to the plants. Absorption through the leaves is the fastest way to correct nutritional deficiencies in plants that are turning yellow or weak. Which plants will love receiving this nutrient bath? Since this fertilizer is extremely rich in nitrogen, the king element of vegetative growth, it is the dream food for all the green leafy vegetables in your garden. Lettuce, kale, arugula, spinach, basil, and chives will grow at an amazing speed, with wide and deep green leaves. It is also fantastic for the initial stage of development of fruiting plants like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants, helping to form a thick stem and a leaf structure strong enough to support the fruit later on. Additionally, your non-flowering ornamental plants like ferns, pothos, and monstera will respond wonderfully well, gaining a spectacular shine in their foliage. On the other hand, you need to know when to hold back. Like everything in life, excess is also harmful. Do not apply this nitrogen-rich fertilizer to plants that are at the peak of their flowering period or starting to bear ripe fruit, like a tomato plant loaded with red tomatoes. If you give it too much nitrogen at this stage, the plant may abandon the production of fruits and flowers to go back to growing only leaves. You will have a giant and beautifully green tomato plant, but without tomatoes to eat. Another group of plants you should avoid watering with this fertilizer are succulents and cacti. These desert plants are adapted to very poor and dry soils. If you give them such a strong and rich liquid fertilizer, their sensitive roots can rot quickly. Save the liquid gold for plants that are hungry for leaves and accelerated growth. What is the ideal application frequency? Unlike water, which you need to provide almost every day, fertilizer is a heavy meal. For plants in small pots or in very demanding phases, you can apply the diluted mixture every 15 days. For larger plants, shrubs, and fruit trees in the garden, one application a month is more than enough to keep their health at its peak. Always observe your plants. They speak to you. If the leaves are wilting without a lack of water, or have a very pale green that turns yellow, it is a sign that they are asking for your lawn fertilizer. If they are already overflowing with green and growing non-stop, take a break. Balance is the great secret of a successful gardener. But it is better to apply less and consistently than to give an overdose of nutrients all at once. To finish our cycle of golden instructions, let's talk about storage. What is the shelf life of this incredible fertilizer? The most honest answer is, it has no shelf life because it should not be stored. This is a living fertilizer, full of microorganisms that breathe and consume the little oxygen left in the water. If you bottle this liquid, cap it tightly, and leave it on the shelf, it will become exactly what we wanted to avoid. In a few days, without oxygen, the aerobic bacteria will die. Anaerobic fermentation will begin. Gases will build up, and your bottle could literally explode, spreading that sewer smell all over your garage. Therefore, make only the amount you plan to use that week. Harvest the fertilizer on the 7th day. Dilute it and apply it all that same weekend. The grass grows back quickly, and you can start a new, clean, sweet-smelling bucket the following week, without any problem. And there you have it, my friends. Who would have thought that the secret to having the greenest garden in the neighborhood without spending a single cent on expensive and doubtful fertilizers was growing right in front of our noses the whole time? In just 7 short days, we used the magic of water, oxygen, and a little sugar to turn grass clippings into a liquid elixir of life, completely free of the horrible smell of poorly made compost and infinitely more powerful and safe than common manure. Your plants will take a leap in their development that will leave everyone with their mouths open. Thank you very much for watching until the end and for dedicating yourself to understanding the wonderful science of nature with us. If this story changed the way you look at the grass clippings in your yard, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. We are unearthing the secrets of nature that many have tried to bury. Cultivate your future. The next treasure of gardening will be revealed soon,